Hello, everybody. It is June 19th, 2025, here in the United States of America. And I just wanted to quickly touch upon the situation that President Trump has put himself in regards to the Israeli-Iranian conflict. I don't have a ton of time today, so I'm just going to make a quick video and talk about the current political situation he finds himself in due to the United States' potential involvement in this conflict. Now, President Trump has received quite a bit of pushback recently from his base over potentially becoming involved in a protracted war in the Middle East. Now, this is something that President Trump repeatedly campaigned against. He thought the invasion of Iraq was foolish. He's always held that stance. He's held that interventions in the Middle East have been a waste of time and have been generally foolish and have caused far more harm than good. He is correct in these points. Now, I do believe that President Trump firmly believes in what he says in regards to these things, but also once he becomes president, the reality takes things become a little bit different when you now have to balance between being lobbied by America's allies to take certain positions or maybe intervene militarily. You have your generals asking you to do things. You're being pressured by congressmen and lobbyists and whatnot. This is why the presidents always make very specific promises before coming into office, and then once the reality of the presidency hits them, things begin to change. And some of those promises, let's just say, don't end up being fulfilled. Now, what I think President Trump is trying to do is straddle a line between showing strong support for one of the United States' key allies in the region, while also trying to hold to his stance that he will not involve the United States in any unnecessary war. Now, Trump's position is essentially that if Iran directly targets American troops in the region or American interests, then he will use American air power to join in directly with Israel's war with Iran. And now it is believed by most people that the United States is currently supplying ISR and satellite imagery to the Israelis, which is one of the ways that they're able to locate and strike many of these nuclear sites. Now, Israel does have an extensive spy network within Iran, as they do with most countries. Mossad agents have been captured fairly frequently within Iran, and they were able to launch drone strikes from within Iranian soil. So they are collecting their own intelligence, but it is pretty obvious the United States is assisting in some capacity. Also, many of the weapons and weapon systems that the Israelis are using are American-made weapon systems. Now, Iran has threatened to retaliate directly against the United States of America and its interests in the region if the U.S. directly participates in the conflict. And by directly participates, that's Americans flying American planes, dropping American bombs, not things given to the Israelis and then flown by the Israelis. Now, partially due to his own rhetoric and not being quite clear on what his intentions are, Trump has received a lot of pushback from his base, namely Tucker Carlson, probably the most prominent voice in Trump's base that is expressing opposition to potentially being involved in this war. Now, what President Trump is trying to do, and his policy has always been peace through strength. Now, one of the ways that President Trump conducts himself in foreign affairs is using the mad dog technique to make it look like if he's pushed in any capacity or adversaries even think about striking U.S. troops or harming U.S. troops, that the United States will respond with overwhelming force. Now, he backs this up with rhetoric. He says things that come off as unhinged. Iran will be destroyed. Everyone needs to evacuate Tehran. Fire will rain down from the sky, the likes of which they've never seen, yada, yada, yada. Now, this is something that President Trump has always done. This is what he did in his first term in regards to North Korea. I think it's mostly theater. It's to, in his mind, show a very strong posture and willingness to use force if necessary to try to make sure that the Iranians don't strike American targets. It's to show them that if you really don't want us to enter this war, you had better not target our troops, and if you do, we are deadly serious about retaliation. Now, the problem is, though, Trump's base is politically traumatized, so to speak. They have little faith in the system. They have little faith in the Republican Party. They have little faith in neocons, and they know that there's a foreign lobby always in Trump's ear trying to get him to directly intervene in this war. They are worried that Trump is being pressured by these people and will go against his instincts and the better interests of the country and directly intervene in this war without being attacked first by the Iranians. I don't think it's that people don't trust President Trump. They don't trust the system that he now finds himself entrenched in. I mean, a false flag attack could be carried out that could draw American forces in. Certain senators could get their way and give Trump false intelligence that convinces him that a strike is necessary. Any of these things can happen, and so his base is extremely concerned because one of the things they're firmly against is more involvement in Middle Eastern wars. The Iraq War was a disaster. Our interventions in Libya and Syria have turned those countries into wastelands, political wastelands, so to speak, of instability, death, destruction, and in some cases the return of slavery. And Afghanistan was a waste of 20 years, where the Taliban returned to power anyways, far better armed and funded than they ever were in the past, because of all the equipment that was left behind. And as I've mentioned in other videos before, the American psyche is not one of interventionism. We're not beset by enemies. We don't feel the need to constantly aggressively defend ourselves beyond our borders. We have to be convinced and propagandized into doing so. We have Canada to the north, Mexico to the south. Americans are content with the land they have. Americans are content with defending what they hold. We have all the natural resources we could ever need. We have all the land and space we could ever need. We're not surrounded by enemies. We're not constantly fearful of invasion. We have the most geographically secure country on the planet. So we are not a people that favor intervening in foreign causes and foreign wars. We've done so for the past 100 years, most of the time to our own detriment. And frankly, Americans are tired of it. We know that our nation doesn't require these things to survive. We know that. So there's a very strong movement within Trump's base to finally put an end to this kind of foreign policy. So he's getting a lot of pushback from it. I think he's getting more pushback than many Republican politicians assumed. People are trying to smear Tucker Carlson over this, and he just did an interview with Ted Cruz that I think turned out disastrous for Ted Cruz. Now, many people are making fun of the question that Tucker Carlson asked him about, well, do you even know the population of Iran? And Ted Cruz didn't. People think that's, no big deal that he doesn't know the population of one of the countries he wishes to militarily, intervene against. What does the population matter? Well, the population does matter. Iran has 90 million people in it. They also have very mountainous terrain. They have a very large pool of men to draw upon. They have a lot of places to hide weapons. They have a very strong defense in depth, so to speak. They have a lot of land where they could hide things, a lot of terrain that could easily hide things, and a lot of men to call upon if needs be, and weapons that are good enough to cause serious damage to other regional powers, including Israel, and potentially damage our Air Force as well. Now, people bring up the fact that, the mullahs are not popular in Iran. A lot of Iranians don't like them. Yes, that's true, but keep this in mind too. When the Germans invaded the Soviet Union, a lot of Belarusian, Ukrainian, and Russian citizens did not like the Soviet Union, but they defended their land, not their government. Iranians, if attacked, will defend their land and not necessarily their government. There's no guarantee that they'll turn on the mullahs, and even if they did, this could result in a catastrophic civil war that sends millions upon millions of refugees across the Middle East and Europe. Now, many of these nations have already taken in more refugees than they can handle. It's causing economic and social problems now. And again, Trump's base knows that this is a possibility. They want no part of it. And Ted Cruz's apparent ignorance on the Iranian population, culture, people, language, and history is just more proof to Americans that the people in charge, the people surrounding President Trump, again, are more than willing to foolishly get America involved in a war in a nation they know nothing about. This is why so many members of the Republican Party were shocked that Iraq so quickly descended into a massive civil war. Many analysts saw it coming. Many analysts warned Republican leadership and military leadership that this would happen, and nobody listened, again, because they just make blind assumptions about regions of the world, intervene militarily, and then are shocked and surprised when things don't go the way that they assume. And this is what Trump's base is worried about. This is what they're terrified of. And I think President Trump knows this. He knows that if he does commit himself to a long attritional war with Iran, that he will lose probably half his support and doom the Republican Party to lose in the midterms. Not that people will vote Democrat, but out of protest and pure anger and frustration, they'll stay home. Because the Republican Party has a very long history of not fulfilling its promises. And President Trump, to people, is the politician that will finally give Republican voters what they've been seeking and what they've been asking for. And they hold him to that standard. That's what they want out of him, and that's what he promised. And one of the things he promised, as I mentioned before, is no major wars in the Middle East, no involvement in any kind of long war. Now, President Trump says he does not desire the U.S. to get into a long, protracted war with Iran, but here's the reality of it. It would not be a quick war. It would be an aerial war of attrition, where Iranians seemingly would take a beating, things would be destroyed, members of their leadership would be taken out, but they would continue to fight because, as I've mentioned before, they have a very large pool of men to pull from. They've been preparing for this conflict for years. They have lots of underground bunkers, places that we don't even know about. Many of their production facilities are located deep underground where we probably don't know where they're at. And even if we did, they're probably buried so deep we couldn't strike them. This would not be a quick conflict. This would be a long, protracted, drawn-out war that would have dire consequences and severe losses for all parties involved. And what President Trump is trying to do is keep the Israeli lobby happy by behaving. I'm trying to think of a good way to word this. He's trying to keep them happy by taking a strong defensive stance against Iran to make it look like, yes, we have your support, we have your back. If the Iranians do anything, we will intervene on your behalf. But also he's trying to keep his base happy by making it clear that he doesn't want to intervene in this war unless American troops are attacked. Now, the Israelis are basically begging for help at this point because they cannot win a war of attrition against Iran. They have a much, much smaller country, a much smaller population, and they do not have as many weapon systems on hand, and we can't send them as many as they need, and they know that. So they have to end this war quickly because if it drags out any longer, then they'll have to capitulate to the Iranians or find some way to drag us in. So, do I think that President Trump will directly intervene in this war unprovoked against Iran? I don't think so. He can't politically afford it. No matter how much he's being pushed, I think he'll resist it. Now, will bad actors in the region do things to make sure that it appears that American troops have been attacked so the war is entered by the United States of America? There's a good chance that could happen. A very good chance. But if President Trump does intervene in this war and it's a long, protracted war and this thing isn't over in a week or two, then there will be dire political consequences for President Trump and the Republican Party at home. This is just the reality of things. Nothing is going to change that. Much of Trump's base is firmly anti-war and anti-interventionalist. And any kind of unnecessary war is immediately going to cause them to pull their support from President Trump and the Republican Party. Despite their loyalty to him, despite their belief in him, this is one issue they will not let him slide on. But anyways, that's all I wanted to talk about today. I just wanted to do a quick video. I didn't have a ton of time. I have to go to work here in a little bit, but I will be back Saturday with another video. So everyone out there, have a great day, and see you then.